7:20 Monday, January 3rd, and every week, thanks to our friends at Craneworks. You can hear him 2 to 6 p.m. weekdays right here on Jocks 94.5. See him on the SEC Network, ESPN. It's Paul Feinbaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, rental works, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Feinbaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Feinbaum.
Paul, always great to have you with us on a Monday morning. Moving away from just the SEC portion of this college football season and the college football playoff, to see Ohio State and Notre Dame in the championship game, what does that just make you think, first and foremost?
Well, certainly there's a slight paradigm because of all the things that we talk about, the portal and how easy it is for schools to go out and get players on a moment's notice. But I don't think you can ever read too much into a snapshot. I understand the narrative, but I think the fact that we have a Big Ten team in there again for them, and I just think Notre Dame managing to come all the way back is one of the most remarkable stories that I have seen in college football, because on the second weekend of the year when they lost to NIU, I think you had to think this team had no chance of making it to the playoffs and certainly the final game.
Of and Paul, how maybe his approach can be.
I think the approach can, the small time that I realized while you were doing the game, I late in the game, and instead of angry, I mean, he just smiled, which, you curry smiling it, laughing, and I just thought that was that upbeat when they see the game slipping away.
Paul, what do you begin to look forward to as far as the SEC is concerned for next season? Is there a team that you feel like on the rise, on the move upwards, has upward momentum that maybe with a piece or two here or there could surprise us? Or they're a team that maybe you think some people have high expectations for that you would disagree with and say you think they might be heading downward?
Well, I think on one level I like Tennessee because even though we've all conveniently forgotten about them because of the loss to Ohio State, I do think the momentum that Josh Heupel has going is very impressive to me. I'm also strangely bullish, and I don't think it's strange, but every time I bring this up to somebody, they shoot me down. But I like what I see from Auburn. I think they went out and landed a quarterback that I think can help them, even though he didn't do much for Oklahoma. And I am very impressed with the recruiting of Auburn. And I know some people say that the state doesn't matter as much anymore. We're in a national, global world. I realize all that, but I think from an internal pride standpoint, what Hugh Freeze is doing is very impressive. Now he's still faced with a critical season. I'm not washing that away. And it really doesn't matter, and it won't matter if he doesn't have a big year. But I do like the momentum there. I mean, there are a lot of places I feel good about. I mean, I think certainly I'm intrigued by what Georgia does if they do anything in the next portal. I know all their fans want to be all in on Gunnar Stockton. I'd like to see what else they can get before I'm casting my lot with him.
I think that's fair. Outside of the SEC, Paul, teams that you feel pretty decent about bouncing back, is there? And I hate to go there with you, knowing how you have a tendency to go straight to the top rope and just people's elbow everybody. But like, what about SC? You know what I mean? Like, what about Michigan? What about some of the programs that had down and disappointing years? How important is for them to necessarily need to go and win the Natty or go and make the playoff? I don't think that's necessarily, make it or break it in my estimation. But how do you see 2025 for teams that had disappointing down years and are in need for a bounce back?
Tennessee when you started asking that question. But to me, year for Lincoln Riley, and I winning the bowl game was really important. I mean, it's a win will do, especially if you're a school your season. What I'm concerned about is all the players that have bailed out of there, though. The roster looks like today, but I've seen a lot of players leaving compared to players coming in. But I think that's self-explanatory. You can't get away with a couple of bad years at SC, even if you. Into that program, and that is benefits for you work your way through the as a program. Because of the way it ended, it just doesn't feel like Mario, including me, he is close to breaking through.
Paul Feinbaum joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline with us every Monday, thanks to Craneworks. You mentioned that you weren't necessarily concerned about some serious power shift. There are those, though, that feel like this is going to tilt things to specifically the north, I guess, is the only easy way to say it. Do you feel like that is something that is going to shift, going to change? Is this going to be sort of a Big Ten tournament for the foreseeable future?
I don't know how anybody can make that statement. The one thing I think you can accurately say is what we've just witnessed. And I mean, I cringe every time I see a pundit say, well, the SEC is not dead. And let me give you the overall numbers for the year. I don't care about what happened in September and October. What I care about right now is the way the SEC has finished the season, and it has finished the season badly. I think we have to be honest and admit it. Ohio State beat two SEC schools. I mean, let's just let's use what we've seen with our own eyes to tell the story. Notre Dame beat Georgia, which was a lot of people's picks, including mine, at the beginning of the season with Ohio State to get to Atlanta. And I think you just have to sometimes when it doesn't go your way. This sounds like I'm teaching a high school class here. Just accept it and move on. And I think the next week will be a very long one for the SEC. It could have been worse if Penn State had pulled that out. It would have the pain would have metastasized. But right now, I'm in nearly 20 years on a back-to-back national championship basis. That doesn't mean that we aren't in that. I think everybody listening to us this morning in Alabama and around the country know how good you do in the playoffs to find you. Just ask Josh Allen if he were to lose next weekend. Just ask anybody, and that's what we're going through right now. And quit tilting at windmills and just accept the fact that the ending was bad for the SEC.
Paul, we always appreciate the time. Always glad when you join us every Monday. We'll have you back next week and look forward to visiting then. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
And Paul Feinbaum joins us each and every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks. Want to follow up with a little bit of what Paul said there. And I was going to save this for a little bit later in the show, but there is someone who believes that power shift may be happening and that domino has already dropped. Someone that's been around college football, very involved in college football. And I'll let you hear who that was said here in just a moment. First, I want to tell you about our friends at Train. Don't get caught in the cold. Obviously, a chilly weekend. Schedule your system checkup now from a Train comfort specialist. Train has been recognized 10 consecutive years as a HVAC brand. Our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. Visit Train.com to find a comfort specialist near you. All right, we'll let you know who thinks that maybe the balance of power has shifted and will stay that way next on McElroy and Cubelic. All right, Monday, January 13th, 7:33 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Paul Feinbaum with us to go saying that he's not going to go out on a limb and say that the balance of power in college football has shifted or even really is shifting. Do you believe that might be the case? 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. If not, why? We'll have that discussion here in just a moment. Before we get to that, G-Mac, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's is a great spot, a place that I've been going since I moved back to Birmingham. And it's been really the only place that I've purchased things for my wife or for my family. We get gifts from there for other folks. We've now created multiple collections with kids and godchildren and things like that, all because of Bromberg's. We are so grateful to always feel like family. They know us by our first name. They know our kids. They know our family history. They know our story. So go and check them out in one of their 2 locations in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit. You'll be glad you did. Bromberg's is the very best.
So I had a couple conversations with people over the weekend, and they are beginning to believe, Greg, that this is a sign of the future, and this will begin to sort of shift things in that direction of the Big Ten and SEC teams beginning to take over college football. I think some of the reason of that is recent success with NIL and what has happened for certain programs. I'm not saying I'm on board with this or I believe this in any stretch, manner, shape, form, or fashion, but do you believe that this is there any sort of power shift that's taking place that's happening right now in college football with no SEC teams in this championship game?
Yes, there's absolutely a power shift because the Big Ten schools are bigger, they have larger fan bases, and they have access to more resources by way of NIL. I don't think it should be that surprising. But I also think that one thing that the SEC had to their advantage in the BCS era is proximity. All the best players come from the South, or a vast majority of the best players come from the South. So it was pretty easy to just keep kids at home. Hey, you want your family to come play? Come on. Come drive right down the road an hour, as opposed to getting on a flight and flying to Southern California to watch your kid play. So it's changed a lot. And I do think it's going to be harder for the SEC moving forward because they don't have access to resources the same way they do in the Big Ten. The Ohio State, for example, they have over 1 million living alumni of people that support the program. Just off the top, look at the student body population of Ohio State. I might add, gigantic institution. Like, there's something to that, I think, when you take into account the NIL world and the one that we're living in.
Boise.
Not large.
Just had to throw that one in. All right, so the
than there are in the state of Idaho. I don't know for sure, but we could probably double check that. It's probably not that big of a gap.
Well, the individual who thinks that this has begun, is already taking place, is none other than Connor Stallions. You know him, the guy with the camera sunglasses standing on the sideline of a Central Michigan game.
He would know.
The guy who has shared his manifesto to be a Michigan assistant. He tweeted out after the Cotton Bowl, "I'd get used to Northern teams running college football now that NIL is above table. The last 2 national championship games, Michigan, Washington, Ohio State, Notre Dame." I just appreciate that he's including Washington and the North.
Powerhouse.
Quote,
They are Northern.
I'm
Can confirm.
fully aware of
You were there.
where they lie, longitude and latitude.
Joe Moore Award
on a map.
You were there for the Joe Moore Award one time. It's not exactly Southern school.
But I also think that it's interesting we know where he's going with this, and it's essentially Big Ten country yet. And I know Washington now in the Big Ten, but like that's not the. Do you think Washington was there because of their NIL?
Had to have been.
The only reason. Yeah. Dylan Johnson just got paid, and that's why he only went there.
Will Rogers.
That was it. Yeah. So no, I think it was interesting that I do think that there are certain teams out there that people selectively, when talking about North, South, and college football, will kind of like throw them in. Like all of a sudden they'll want Boise to be a certain direction, or other schools that are kind of close. And it's interesting. But Connor Stallion says that he thinks he'd get used to Northern teams running college football, GMAC.
Do you really think that he's way off? Like compared to the old, I'm not suggesting that they're going to run college football. That's a bridge too far. But do you not think it levels the playing field considerably now that
we've already seen that?
It's more than money than it is proximity. Like you ask any coach back in the day, it was like, all right, 5 hour radius. How many players are in a 5 hour radius for you? And that was a huge, huge part of why guys got is no longer a thing at all. Like the opposite of a thing. So I think that's something worth monitoring for sure.
I think the struggle for me there is saying run college football, because as you just stated, it's so much easier for people to now get in the game and find success more rapidly than they have in the past. Well, how is that going to allow a certain group or a certain number of teams to be able to just run college football? If it's so easy for your players to be taken away and so easy for your players to leave and go somewhere else, why do we think that all of a sudden Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Penn State are just going to be able to keep all their players? Why did Keandre Lambert-Smith come to Auburn last year? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, Kyle McCord went to Syracuse. I don't know. The Syracuse offered Kyle McCord so much money he couldn't turn it down, and I know Ohio State didn't want him anymore. But I'm just saying, like, why? Some of these guys also just need a place that's going to work for them. It's not necessarily how many commas you have and how many zeros before that decimal point. It's a little bit more involved in that. I think it's going to be hard for anybody to run college football anymore, conference or individual group of teams. Because I think it's ever changing right now. Until there are some sort of barriers, guidelines, guardrails, I don't think anybody can just run it. But if people thought that the Big Ten wasn't going to be able to be competitive or wasn't going to be able to make legitimate runs in this playoff, I think now we know that that's just not going to be the case.
Who thought that?
Well, I think we probably have a few listeners that felt like a 12-team playoff, and I can recall a few comments that we had in that it was only just going to mean more SEC teams are going to be in, have a chance to go win a title.
Nah, I think it depends on the year. I think a lot of it depends on the year. I mean, and also too, when it gets to real NIL with the settlement that's coming, like it's actual NIL, like you cannot just pay for play anymore. Then it's going to be about brands. So I think that'll be something that's worth monitoring for sure. Because if you're the quarterback at Texas, you're going to get Dr. Pepper commercials, whether you like it or not, and that's real NIL. That's not fake NIL. I think that there's other parts of that as well. So there's a lot of very interesting parts of where we're going. And if you really look at it, I think there's going to be teams that know they can't buy a roster every year, and that's fine. There's no problem with that. I think Clemson kind of realizes that. So they're going to have, it might be, and you know what? I hate to break it to the wonderful listeners here, but if your school is in the SEC and they're not named Texas and Texas A&M, you're probably not going to be able to piece together the best roster by way of NIL. I mean, it's just, you're going to have homegrown talent developed. And that, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Look at Notre Dame. They have a couple portal players. They have more homegrown players that are being developed, arguably, or at least players outside of that more. Listening to this, he's a corner. How many stars?
That I did not follow.
Go ahead and take a peek. I'd like for Damien's reaction here. Leonard Moore, 2-4 all of recruiting sites. Tell me how many stars Leonard Moore had.
I'll guess 2.
Close.
3.
There you go.
2.75.
Yeah, he was a 3-star in
3-star.
2020.
The best player on their team as a true freshman, arguably.
But also think of what they had. They got a lacrosse player playing receiver. They got a safety who came in as a receiver, didn't necessarily have a home. They've done a good job of just getting football players and then finding a place to get them on the field. You just mentioned that with Jag, you saw a little bit earlier. I mean, the guy comes in was supposed to be a starting tackle, has to fill in at right guard, does a great job. When you have football players, you can find a way. But it's just you got to have people who can find them. And so
no question. That's I think part of it. So those of you that are worried about keeping up with the Joneses in the portal and throwing money at everybody and trying to put together the best roster ever. Okay, yeah, Ohio State's got it right now for sure. They were able to put together a $20 million roster. Why? Because their rival won the Natty last year. So they put together a roster and it worked for them and it's great, but there's a lot of money on a bunch of rosters this year, Georgia and others, Miami, a lot of rosters that aren't playing in this Natty who have endless amounts of resources. You know that Notre Dame's NIL is considerably less than that of your average SEC team? People don't know that. People don't want to pay attention to that.
Yeah, no, listen, it's fair. When we come back, we're going to get to our top 3, take a little bit, we'll change directions a little bit of NFL flavor, but I think you guys will be surprised, and I'm going to tell you when you come back, because Connor Stallions has gone here. Greg kind of added onto the conversation. Everybody keeps going, most living alumni. Well, there's the ultimate sleeper out there somewhere. And I'm just waiting for him to step into the game. And I'll tell you who that is. And maybe we discuss.
University of Phoenix, we got problems.
Hadn't seen their tape, though.
The largest accredited private university in North America. It has a substantial alumni network of well over 1 million graduates. That's my question of the day. When does the University of Phoenix step into the game? And how many stadiums will they have?
Do they play their home games in Phoenix?
Everywhere.
Answer is no. Glendale.
No, they play their home games in Miami, Atlanta, Glendale, Detroit, New York, Austin. They just move around. Stadiums on different campuses everywhere. They are the ultimate satellite college football power. First team to play on the moon. University of Phoenix. Here
we have no chance.
I'm just saying, look, everybody always wants to point to one thing. If it's living alumni, wait till Phoenix steps in the game. That's all I'm saying. All right, back with more right after this. 7:51 Monday, January 13th on Jocks 94.5. Putting together our game plan for the University of Phoenix to take over college sports. We'll see where that goes. But Connor Stallion says
we're going to increase whatever tuition is by 3% to help pay for our NIL, and we're cooking. Like, we are cooking at University of Phoenix. Are you going to coach O-line, or are you going to go head coach?
For which satellite campus? I think they're going to have A, B, and C teams. By the way, they're not. You just have different colored birds for each team, or your mascots.
I think in the South it should be like Roebuck. It should be like
that feels about right,
or whatever, some small town, small town. Roebuck came to mind, and that's the clothing company.
It's a good one.
Is that a real place?
Roebuck, yes.
There's a Roebuck. Yeah,
there is.
Absolutely.
I felt like there was.
No,
perfect.
100%.
I'm looking at it. Nope, Maplesville's too big. Let's go Marion.
Oh my.
We'll go to Marion.
Well, you got to have quick access to it now if you're going to have all these hundreds of thousands of students that are not necessarily attending online. I mean, all you got to have is a giant warehouse of servers, and you can have 50,000 students in a heartbeat.
You got it.
But you got to be right between the booming metropoli of Selma and Utah. Yeah. So we'll go like between Marion and Sprott.
Boy, oh boy.
We'll get it right in there. The list that I brought up from University Magazine.
University Magazine. Are you a subscriber?
I'm not.
What day? Is that once a month publication or is that quarterly?
It's quarterly. Universitymagazine.ca if you want to check that out. The biggest college alumni networks in the U.S. Now, listen, this is their guidelines. Cost, curriculum, campus amenities all matter. Vibrant network of graduates can be a resource long after you leave campus, making opportunities. I'm trying to see what all they're putting into this because it's not going to be what people think, I don't believe.
So it's not the PFF of...
It's not. We researched alumni networks at the 50 most prominent U.S. schools on the list. Again, these schools came out on top regarding the number of living alums. I will say Alabama comes in at 25, 221,000. This was on June the 3rd, 2024. Anwar Abdi wrote this article. I think some of these others are going to surprise you. Virginia at 24, Stanford, North Carolina State, North Carolina, Georgia at 20, Harvard at 19, Columbia University at 18, Florida State, Florida at 16 with 450,000, BYU, USC West, University of Wisconsin-Madison. This was probably the biggest surprise to me in the entire list. University of Cal Berkeley, 504,000.
Oh, wow.
And the University of California, Los Angeles, 510,000. So Big Ten making a lot of noise here. Purdue, Texas and Austin, Ohio State at 8, Rutgers at 7 with 604,000, Michigan State, Texas A&M, 640,000, University of Michigan, New York University.
Oh, NYU.
At number 3. When do they start in there? When are they moving up to FBS?
Hadn't seen any conversation about that one yet.
650,000. Penn, 750,000.
Oh, yeah, the old Quakers, baby.
They're lagging in the world of college football. And according to University Magazine, this all I do is just read what University Magazine puts out there. Number 1, Indiana, 774,828 living alumni.
Well, I mean, they're not playing ball. They're playing school. I understand.
Actually, they were playing ball this year. They were in the playoffs.
That is true.
Haven't been playing basketball in a while, but
that came up when we met with Signetti a couple weeks back, believe it or not.
Oh, education.
No,
the fact that they're like the biggest school in the country.
Okay.
Are you defined as biggest school in the country by how many people have at one time attended? Some people might say that's like geographic, like who has the biggest campus or who has the most people in school now, which for a long time I know was UCF, right?
Yeah, they were up there.
They were like 68, 72,000, something.
That was a national championship year, though.
Well, they got a ways to go to build up the. I don't know.
Also build up the NIL base.
Connor Stallions did add to with a backed up a little bit. So we'll let you hear that after we get to Justin Hokanson, who's going to update us on the Janai Broom injury from over the weekend. How severe is it? What's Auburn looking at maybe in the next few weeks without Janai Broom? After that, talk a little bit of transfer portal as well, what Hugh Freeze has done. Are they finished? What else do they need to add? And more next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Monday, January 13th, hour number 2 underway. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Always see what's going on live on the show every day. Listen online, jocksfm.com. App is in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download that for free. Before we get to Justin Hokanson, I want to tell you about your CBD store. If you have a pet in your household like we did, struggling to get up and down the stairs, struggling to move around a little bit, the joints are achy, they have products that can help your pet there. Also anxiety, skincare, gut health, they have products that can help your pets with all those issues at your CBD store. Largest brick and mortar CBD retailer on earth. If you're looking for better focus throughout the course of the day, they have gummies you can just pop in throughout the course of the day, be able to focus in a little bit better on what you're trying to get done, whatever task is at hand for you on that specific day. Stop in your CBD store. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements, maybe better night's sleep, what you're looking for, maybe more energy throughout the course of the day. Your CBD store wants to help you live a better life. Go check out your CBD store at 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trustful just off 459. See your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, let's get to the Buyers Right hotline now. Justin Hokanson joining us, covers the Auburn Tigers, and we saw they were able to sneak past South Carolina over the weekend, Justin, but they had to do it for a pretty large chunk of time without Janai Broom. You were the first person I saw share information on his MRI results yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is it's a non-surgical ankle sprain. So obviously that was a good news. No break, nothing that requires surgery. So really where they're at now is it's all about how aggressive he can be in rehab and his pain tolerance. I mean, that's pretty much where they're at. I mean, the more aggressive he can be in rehab and the more he gets after it, and then the more he can sort of tolerate the pain and run and jump and cut, that pretty much will depend on how quickly he can come back. I think that's completely sort of to be determined. Obviously, I've heard some people, I've talked to a couple of people that have talked about 3 or 4 weeks or 2 weeks, but really all of that is just dependent on Janai. Everybody's body sort of handles things differently, and he'll handle things differently. So I would bet, though, just from talking to people, you've got 2 games. You got Mississippi State Tuesday, you got Georgia next Saturday. Then you don't play a game that next week leading into Tennessee in 2 weeks on that Saturday. So I would imagine the Tennessee game obviously is going to be a monster game. I would bet that that's the goal. Whether he can get back by that game and be 100% or not, I don't know. But I would guess 2 weeks, try to get him to where he can play in that game. That would probably be my guess is the goal. And then that could obviously change depending on how rehab goes.
It had to have been outrageously optimistic. Not only did I think he had a ankle, I texted. Made me think like he knew something was wrong. Somewhat surprising, I would think, based on court. Is that kind of what you're gathering?
Obviously, he went down quickly, and you saw that shot. I don't know. I mean, I've had some sprained. He first went down. It looked over there and help him off the court. So he was back out there at the end. Took a look at it. There's nothing broken here to just sit on the bench and watch those last few moments. Probably wouldn't. Something else could have happened. There's some back out there at the end, but yeah, there's something in thought showed, a little bit better result.
Justin Hokanson joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, covers the Auburn Tigers. We know Dylan Cardwell has been great, and we obviously know how long he's been around. We know what the fans think about him. I thought he was huge early in this game, and then obviously you're going to need him more when Broome is out. But who else in that lineup now has to take on a little bit of a different role with Broome's absence if Auburn is going to maintain this record or this ranking?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure. I think there's a lot of pressure on Dylan and Chaney Johnson. They have got to stay out of foul trouble. They're really productive players when they're on the floor, but they do have a tendency to pick up bunches of fouls. Like they could go out there and pick up 2 in a couple minutes. They can't do that. You don't have Janai anymore. Jaheim Hudson is probably, I would imagine, gets a few more minutes the way he did in the second half, and he's at least a physical body that's played basketball that, you can toss out there, and I don't think he's going to get completely dominated if you need him. But he's not Dylan. He's not Chaney. Those 2 guys have got to stay out of foul trouble and stay on the court. When they do, they're productive. The numbers say both those guys are extremely productive when they're out there. But now, without Janai, if Dylan picks up a couple early fouls or if Chaney picks up a couple early fouls, it'll change the lineup. I mean, they'll probably have to go small and play more guards. So those 2 guys staying out of foul trouble is huge. If they do, maybe adjust to how they play defense just a little bit. Just, hey, you got to move your feet. You can't be quite as aggressive. We need you out there. I think Auburn will be in good shape. The biggest thing he missed with Janai is not just his scoring, but his ability to pass the ball from that position. You can run your offense through him. Dylan and Chaney don't have that. You can't dump it to them where they can then survey the court and either score or kick out. Janai's just a different play. The big thing is those 2 guys staying out of foul trouble. And then I think it's just the offense continuing to run their stuff and not get stagnant and not have a situation where Miles Kelly or Tahad Pettiford or Chad Baker think without Janai, they have to be the guy. I've got to now step up my scoring. they don't need to, that mentality won't work for the offense. So they've got to continue to run their stuff where it's not just one guy and not get stagnant. But those two guys staying out of foul trouble will be big. And I think somebody like Chad Baker, who's right there with Janai in terms of value to that team, he's got to continue to be good, be a good passer, and do a lot of stuff. He's a good facilitator too. So I think he's a guy that will continue to be really valuable in terms of driving and passing the ball and getting others involved.
Could this, in the long term, I always try to look at this with the glass half full. Could this in the long term, and you just referenced kind of how things could adjust from a rotational standpoint, could this actually be beneficial since it happened when it happened? You now have ample amounts of time before you start playing gotta have it games. And you could in turn potentially get some pivotal minutes for some guys that might need it more so than Janai. And not that he's old, but he gets some rest now leading into what could be a very important stretch run.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, for college basketball, he's pretty old.
He's ancient for college basketball.
He's played in the millions. Yeah,
I don't think we need to worry about load management for college players yet, at least not yet.
I think it's possible. I mean, I think it's a very fair point. I mean, you're certainly going to get at least, I would have to think at least 2 games. I don't see any way Janai plays in the next 2 games. I mean, I don't know for sure, but that even Tennessee seems like a stretch. You're going to get at least 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 games without your absolute best player. I mean, he leads the team in scoring, rebounding, assists, block shots. I mean, your center, your Janai leads the team in assists. That's how important he is. So, I don't think it could be a positive if you can play 3 or 4 games without him, where you sort of learn to do things without him. Dylan and Cheney have to learn to stay on the floor a little bit more, and you got to figure things out when he's not on the court. It could absolutely be a positive. We'll just sort of have to wait and see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see the Mississippi State game. They're really good. They're really physical, and we'll see. But yeah, I could see a situation where you play these 3 or 4 games without him. Situation comes up, maybe he gets in foul trouble in a big game down the road, and he's on the bench for 10 minutes, and you feel good about playing without him. It absolutely could be. I think that's probably the biggest negative is we can't lose games without him. We might not be able to win the regular season if he's not out. For other guys having to pick up some slack, even somebody like Jaheim, he hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. If he can get 7-8 minutes a game for 3 games, that's not a bad thing. And so, yeah, I think there's on and decide if it was if that's true or not, but I could easily see that scenario.
Justin, thanks for the time, man. Always appreciate it. We'll have you back here soon, talk a little bit of portal, kind of where Hugh Freeze's roster is, where he needs to be, what else you think he needs to add. But just wanted to hit that Broom information because you were the first person I saw put anything out yesterday. So thanks for hopping on this morning.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Justin Hokanson joining us there on the Buyers Right Hotline, talking a little bit of Auburn basketball. We'll have Andy Burcham on tomorrow. Discuss it further with him at 8 a.m. Just get his thoughts on kind of where the lineup goes, where the minutes go until Broom returns. You brought up a decent point, though, Greg, of could this end up being a net positive? The only thing that I would say about that is, I mean, I've had one. I always just assume everybody's had one at some point in time, but like that high ankle sprain, man, like that's not one that, a hamstring 2 weeks and once it's better, it's better. They seem to linger. I mean, I rolled my left ankle bad in spring ball one year, and it still just grinds, and it's just not normal. It's not, and it just never has been. Actually surprised that tightrope is not. I don't know if we could get Norman on to discuss like maybe why or why not, or why you would or would not. Like what's the parameter of saying no, we're not going to go in and tightrope it as opposed to just kind of letting it heal and rehab it on its own. But either way, you need Janai Broom in March. You don't need Janai Broom in January per se. No. And I do think this team has enough talent to hold on. Are they going to be the number 2 team in the nation without him? No, definitely not. But there is a path for it to be a net positive.
I think there is. I mean, at least you get some young guys minutes. Like you said, he doesn't need the reps. We already know this team. But I do think a way that if for in a. We're fine, guys. Look at what we just. When he went out of the. Not that so much. More so, hey, in the event in which doesn't go to script because Janai got 3 early fouls, then we're in good shape. We know how to win even though he's not available.
We'll see how it goes. But as Justin Hokanson stated, and I think the main emphasis point moving forward is Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell, they got to stay out of foul trouble. And I mean, you love the physicality that Johnson brings. You love the energy that Cardwell brings. And then Auburn's got to start hitting their free throws too. I mean, you can't be a 50% free throw team in the SEC without your best player and think that you're going to stay competitive. Just 8 of 21 from behind the three-point line, 6 of 12 from the free throw line against South Carolina. Auburn knocked off South Carolina 66-63. Showed a lot of fight. I mean, had to battle back to win that game. I don't think I realized going into this season that South Carolina's front line was going to be what it was. I mean, they got some. I knew they added Nick Pringle, but they got some big boys up front. Like that front court's a problem, and it's I think for different style matchups, it's gonna probably work against them. But it was something that Auburn ran into and had some issues with early. Pettiford was able to add 2 threes. He had 15 points. Miles Kelly 4 of 8 from behind the 3-point line, 14 points. So I mean, listen, great teams find different ways to win, and Bruce Pearl's group had to find a very different way to win this past weekend for Auburn to stay as a 1-loss basketball team. The number 2 team in the country, rankings come out today. I'll be interested to see kind of where that goes. Alabama in action over the weekend as well. An impressive performance from the Crimson Tide and Nate Oates' group as they knocked down A&M on the road 94-80. They get to 14-2. Mark Sears, 27 points for Alabama, 4 of 10 from behind the 3-point line, 9 of 10 from the free throw line. So he was directing traffic and just facilitating almost everything. Really, it was a lot of the bench as Reed had 11 off the bench, Youngblood 14, Holloway 15 off the bench. Nate Oates is getting that kind of minutes from that group, Greg. Bama's going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a physical team. Like, if there was one thing that gave me concerns last year, was, hey, if a team wants to just junk it up and make it like a WWE wrestling match, can we handle it? That was the question. Last year wasn't handled very consistently. A&M's they're trying to make every single team. That didn't have much of a factor, so I think there's a lot of reasons. Game is they'll play all season, and they handled it out of that performance.
All right, so more on Alabama-Auburn basketball later in the show. I'm going to get to our top 3 on the other side. We skipped it a little bit earlier when we went into our University of Phoenix taking over college football discussion, which we will continue later this hour. And we'll come back to how Connor Stallion sort of backed up his statement that the North is taking over college football. Before we move on to that, if you're moving out of your home into a new home or just need a piece of furniture moved within your home, Greg, who should our listeners call?
That'd be Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up, move your company headquarters, moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, top 3 coming your way next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Top 3 coming your way here in just a moment. 8:20, Monday, January 13th, Chalks 94.5. Going to get back into the college football playoff as well, but want your feedback after the top 3 of whether or not you think the North is taking over college football. Struggling with that each and every day. You're struggling with sleep, poor energy. Could be the effects of low testosterone. There are a lot of folks experiencing this, and Game Day Men's Health wants to help you. You can feel better. Game Day Men's Health can help you get there as well. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Schedule a free consultation. They want to help you with that brain fog, the energy. Just moving around and feeling more clear, feeling better about yourself each and every day. Weight loss, is that an issue? Well, Game Day Men's Health can help you with that as well. They have multiple programs that they can help get you on. Holistic approach to health and wellness. When you go, check them out today with a free testosterone and free PSA test right out of the gate. That's what you're going to get at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, sign up, see what they can do for you. And don't forget, minimal upfront cost for the programs that they offer right there in-house at Game Day Men's Health. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Sign up for that free consultation today. All right, let's get to our top 3. Skipped it a little bit earlier. Has an NFL flavor this time of the year. What do you have for us today, Damian?
Well, guys, as we know, wild card weekend in the NFL.
I don't think you call it that anymore.
We don't call it that anymore?
They just took the super off of it. So it's just wild card weekend? Okay, so you're right.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
I knew Goodell changed it to something.
Well, we did have some action over the weekend. Cole, got to start things off with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens.
You're fine.
As we do the top 3 NFL performances from over the weekend. One, Derrick Henry, former Tennessee Titans legend, pretty much locked up Hall of Famer. He continues his trek with the Baltimore Ravens as they knocked off the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14. All he did was have 26 carries, 186 yards, and 2 touchdowns in a Baltimore victory.
There just wasn't a lot of positives to look at. I mean, I don't know. It couldn't run the ball.
No.
You threw it deep a couple times.
Who, Derrick Henry?
Russ threw some really nice deep balls.
Derrick Henry probably better passing in Pittsburgh's offense.
Listen,
Russ was 20-29. I'm not putting it on him.
Right.
No, Russ threw some dimes downfield. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck took you so long to throw it downfield.
Well, that would be one. Yeah, just not a lot of balance offensively, and couldn't stop the run. 186 yards, 299 combined.
Yes.
I mean, the last NFL team I saw with 50 carries for 299 in a game, I don't really know. But obviously having Lamar helps with that a lot, but there wasn't an answer. So
it was not. And now the Pittsburgh Steelers have lost 9 consecutive playoff games. Just throwing that out.
And here come the Fire Mike Tomlin people again.
It's tough.
Stop. Just go away.
It's tough.
Don't worry, Cole will be a Giants fan next year.
Let's hope not.
Maybe San Francisco, but not New York.
No, but the next 2 performances came from the same game.
I will say, let me stop you there.
Go ahead, brother.
Top 3 things I saw this weekend. Somebody put out a Trump Derrick Henry body comp. It was like
same
because
size?
they're the same height and same weight. I was just like, I don't know why it got me, but I just thought it was hilarious.
That's
like
funny.
Both like 6'3.5", like 252 or whatever,
Yeah,
and I'm
40,
just like
250.
A little different, but sure, I guess if that's what you want.
Composition slightly different,
Just a little bit.
Build the same.
Obviously, speed probably not close to the same, but
That's just age, though. There's an age gap. Oh man, but the top 3 performances came from the same game. In a disappointing fashion, the Los Angeles Chargers fell to the Houston Texans 32-12. But Nico Collins, someone we know here in the state of Alabama, also played at the University of Michigan. All he did was go out there, have 7 catches, 122 yards, and a touchdown. But not to be outdone. In a losing effort, but somebody that we've been able to break down for years here out of the Georgia Bulldog camp. One, Lad McConkey, sneaky fast. He also went out there for 9 catches, 190 experience. He's a coach on and off the field. 9 catches, 197 yards, and a touchdown. Justin Herbert, that was his only touchdown, but he did throw 4 interceptions.
Sneaky fast.
He is. More athletic than you think.
Find space very well.
Absolutely.
Coach on the field.
On same page with quarterback.
First one in, last one out.
Good chemistry guy with the quarterback.
Absolutely. More athletic than you think.
Correct.
Dude's good, man.
He's a baller.
He's just good.
He catches a lot of balls in the jugs. Yeah, he's good. I think it's hilarious. I'm just still amazed at how many people, even last year, after we seen him run post after post after post against Auburn like 3 years ago and like hitting all these deep balls, getting behind the defense, people still thought he was just this possession receiver. It's amazing to me.
He's a dog.
You know who you are, Damian.
No. I gave him respect.
Why are you hating on my guy?
No, him and Ricky Pearsall. Turn on the tape. Just turn on the tape, dog. But yes, and just wrapping up Super Wild Card Weekend.
It's not super anymore.
Well, Houston Texans knocked off the Los Angeles Chargers 32-12. Of course, the Baltimore Ravens knocked off the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14. That was on Saturday. Then Sunday night slate. Oh boy, the Buffalo Bills jumped all over the Denver Broncos 31-7. The Philadelphia Eagles knocked off the Green Bay Packers 22-10. And the nightcap, the Washington Commanders squeaked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-20. But we're not done because tonight we also have the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings, 2.5-point favorite.
I think that was going to be good tonight. Go ahead.
You know what's concerning? I think we need to start really evaluating the postseason format for the NFL because there are a lot of uncompetitive football games this weekend. And clearly the postseason is broken.
Denver shouldn't have been there. They should have been there.
Yep. It should have been, I don't know, fill in the blank team.
Tennessee.
The Cowboys should have made it because
Well,
they're a bigger brand.
Okay, number one, you got a rookie quarterback going to Buffalo for a playoff game.
Yeah.
That's more times than not going to end poorly for you. You had no balance in your offensive plan, even though you went I formation about 10 times. It wasn't going to happen. So, and also too, I mean, you could make an argument, not the best record, but Buffalo is one of the best teams in the NFL, regardless of playoff seeding. That's just a tough matchup. So I'm not going to really be mad at Denver for that one. That game last night was awesome. I mean, you had a
one
doinked field goal that went in late. I mean, Jaden Daniels, they get that kind of goal line stand, and then he's got to come back and find a way down the field again and be able to get points on the board. Obviously, the Baker fumble was huge, but I think my biggest surprise of the weekend was not the uncompetitive games, but maybe how competitive Philadelphia Green Bay was. I don't know. I kind of thought Philadelphia would handle it. Philadelphia is really good. And I mean, I don't know, coming out of this weekend, like where did your brain shift on the NFL playoffs? Because I would say if Baltimore's offense is that, then I don't know if many teams are going to be keeping up. So that's probably the biggest shift for me mentally in the NFL playoffs was just Baltimore looks really real.
Well, I think Baltimore is very real. That can be confirmed. I think Pittsburgh's of the season playoff. I mean, it's clearly broken, and we need computers to fix it. Okay. I don't know why this is so difficult. This whole notion of you are what your record says you are is fraudulent.
Exactly. Like, the Titans aren't the worst team in the NFL.
I think we should go with the teams with the highest upside and the highest ceiling and the highest NIL.
There we go.
Who are the teams that max the cap the best?
Dallas Cowboys. Let's see. Los Angeles Rams. Miami Dolphins. I think they're all
Clearly, the NFL playoff committee got it wrong.
Absolutely.
That's what you guys need to acknowledge. If there's one takeaway, they got it wrong.
Who's taking over the NFL?
Detroit Lions.
Well, no, I meant like more geographically.
Is the AFC South?
Is the East Coast taking over the NFL? And do we need to have that conversation on the show?
There's been East Coast bias for a while.
Really?
Well, deservingly so. Buffalo, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington.
You know who should have made it? Cincy.
Well, they didn't.
Cincy should have made it. They should have made the playoff.
I'm just saying, if Minnesota wins tonight, maybe we just start the conversation tomorrow of West Coast can't win in the NFL.
We've seen the San Francisco 49ers go to the Super Bowl, and they hadn't beaten the Chiefs. That's Midwest, though. So.
There you go. All right, so you'll get Houston at Kansas City next Saturday, 3:30 on ESPN. Then you'll get Washington at Detroit Saturday night. That's going to be a fun one on Fox. Sunday, TBD versus Philadelphia. The winner of tonight's game will be at the link at 2 o'clock on NBC or Peacock if you just wanted to switch over to Peacock and watch it there. I'm not sure why anybody would do that, but also Baltimore at Buffalo.
Oh, boy.
5:30 on CBS.
And Paramount.
5:30.
That run game better be going.
Yep.
Better
be
be
cold?
going. It'll be chilly. It
No.
will be. It would be a little bit nippy on that one.
It should
Yeah.
be.
You
for
think?
sure.
You think temperature?
I'm going to go with under 30.
Are you temperature?
I'm going to go with under 30.
Are you wearing sleeves? If you're an O lineman,
If
Not
I'm
a skill.
playing,
Well, it's not a skill player.
no, absolutely not.
Can't do it. Jimbo said we couldn't.
No.
I meant they couldn't.
I'm not going to do that. It's not going to happen. We'll get you that game time temp and give it to you when we come back. Also, when we come back, is the North taking over college football? 800-239-9569. 800-239-WJOX. You can tweet it at Mac and Cube. We'll get to your feedback on that. Let you know exactly what Connor Stallions had to say about it. He thinks that's taking place. Other people think it's taking place, but just don't get caught in the cold, even if you are north or down south. Schedule your system checkup now from a Train Comfort Specialist. Train has been recognized 10 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. Visit Train.com to find a comfort specialist near you. It's hard to find a Train. All right, when we come back, we'll discuss college football power. Where does it lie in the future? Next on Mac and Q in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:35 a.m., Monday, January 13th. We spent a lot to go back into, is the North taking over college football, as Connor Stallions thinks that they are. This is a great fit, by the way, I think. UNLV gets a commitment from Michigan quarterback Alex Orji. So he'll go play in Dan Mullen's offense, Greg. That's a
phenomenal fit.
A lot of times in these portal deals, we say, well, okay, well, maybe, I don't, we'll see. That's one that you just say, okay, that works. Absolutely works. Kentucky gets a commitment from South Dakota edge defender Mequan Russo. Haven't seen the tape. You have thoughts?
Don't know him.
Got it.
Not against it, though.
Not against it. Penn State gets a commitment from Alabama safety King Mack, former Alabama safety, and former Texas A&M offensive lineman TJ Shanahan. LSU gets a commitment from Texas A&M tight end Donovan Green, who's done some good things in his time at A&M. Has never been sort of the feature guy, but that could end up being a good get for LSU if he's healthy. South Carolina gets a commitment from Bowling Green defensive line Devontae Miles. Your thoughts?
Need to check the tape. Have seen Bowling Green on offense this year.
Yeah, if they had gotten Bowling Green's tight end, they'd been in good shape.
Oh boy.
I'm about to say Fanick can go.
But that's not who this is.
You sure?
The numbers on Devontae Miles last year, 1 tackle for loss.
Okay. Hey, that's one.
Missouri gets a commitment from Colorado State tight end Vince Brown II, 6'6", 230. So Missouri getting a transfer tight end from Colorado State. Greg, your thoughts?
Good length. I got nothing. I love how you asked. I've seen these guys. Like the Colorado State's actually feasible.
Vince Brown II,
I saw them this year.
24 catches, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns last year. So he got a little production. NC State gets a commitment from former Alabama linebacker Sterling Dixon. UAB gets a commitment from Stephen F. Austin safety Pierre Poister. And then Ole Miss gets commitments from Akron running back Jordan Simmons. Your thoughts, Greg?
Yes.
Got it. Jordan Simmons.
Joe Moorhead knows how to recruit.
100. He went 110 carries, 664 yards, 2 touchdowns last season. Also, I am interested to get your thoughts here. Ole Miss gets a commitment from former Mississippi State, former Auburn offensive lineman Percy Lewis.
No. As long as the snap count's solid and you don't have to get in a 3-point stance and there's no Friday weigh-ins, you're in great shape.
Wow.
What? What? I don't know why y'all are laughing.
That just feels like a lot of qualifiers.
Right.
Well, I think what he's saying is like you're asking a lot there.
Lane's moving the goalpost?
Yeah, that's just a lot of things there.
I just, there was a bad thing. Now it can be a good thing or a bad thing in some cases. Like
remember before it became unlimited meals, it was unlimited snacks. And it was like you could have
No, I don't actually. Why don't you walk me through that?
Yeah, walk
lineman?
me through that one.
No, that was actually after
snacks.
you played. After you played, they this is like not that long ago, by the way. This is like 8 years ago. They said now you can have unlimited snacks.
Okay.
And so they kind of tweaked it to where you could go into the dining hall and guys could get whatever they wanted as snacks at any time during the day. This is like when stipend was starting, and they're like the NCAA was trying to be nice without really changing anything, and so now they can go in the weight room and get Nutri-Grain bars all day, or they can they got honey buns in the cafeteria they can go grab all day long because like unlimited snacks like that's okay. Thanks guys. It was when the kid I think he played for Rutgers, and at the NCAA tournament they lost, and he tweeted out like the styrofoam thing of his meal, and it was like 2 pieces of bread and a piece of bologna. And he was like, NCAA tournament generates $52 billion and this is our lunch or something. Then everybody got mad. So that's when it all happened.
I know. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Just
blows my mind how many people overreact to things like that, but such is life. I don't remember the snacks thing though. I wish I would have. It sounds like it's something that I should have
after
probably
you
taken
played.
advantage of.
After you played is what happened.
Yeah.
But
We got one meal a day, and that meal wasn't good.
that was it.
So, yeah.
All right, let's go to Chris, who wants to talk power shift in college football. Chris, welcome in. What are your thoughts on it?
Hey, guys, doing this morning? Let me talk to you. I guess it's a power shift, but not like a full-on hostile. That's obviously limited because of NIL and transfer portal, right? So you guys, you simply got to compare. Let's, for example, let's take it into the Saban era, right? It's probably not going to be repeated, right? Because for that era, before NIL and transfer portal, it's a decade of dominance, right?
Not until University of Phoenix gets in the game.
And you can look at far national championships of repeating last year with Michigan. They already removed it, right? So for different eras, it's different times. Now, Great Britain Warriors up the stock next to the salary cap on transfer portal or whatnot. We don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. With that hostile takeover because you're still getting the same recruiting, same stocks, same All-American football playing ACC. It's a lot of details that Carson and pro Big Tanners and anything anti-SEC leave out. They just feel to address. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think some of what you say is real, and some of what you say could be part of it. It feels like we're getting further away from, history, tradition, Americans, players drafted, because which I think a lot of people in recruiting would probably just say, well, that was Coach Saban. That's not, you can't attribute that to it anymore. That's how they would recruit against that. I don't know. We'll continue that conversation. Calls coming in, 800-239-9569. Connor Stallion says the North is taking over college football. Do you believe it? We'll discuss it next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Monday, January 13th, 8:45, right here on Jocks 94.5. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945. If you're heading towards Montgomery in our monotone listening area, Sports Radio 740, if you would like to tune in. As always, phone lines open 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. You can text into the show 205-834-9450, tweet in at McCube. Troy is in Salt Lake City. Troy, welcome in.
Hey, thanks. I just responded to Connor Stallions briefly. I think he's making an overstatement and overcharacterization. Specifics matter. Yeah, Big Ten and the North having a good year this year, but if you break down things specifically, Georgia starting a quarterback, his very first college start ever in a playoff game. Texas arguably could have and maybe should have won the game. They don't give up that touchdown right before the half. Things go better on the 4th and 1. Even Alabama last year shot themselves in the foot against Michigan. It's not like they were dominated and run out. So I think, yeah, things are going well. The last couple of years, you have two, B1G teams in the championship, and you got Notre Dame there this year. But it's not like the North has dominated the South in these games. It just hasn't happened. So I think every year you're going to have situationally specific things. Yeah, there's a diffusion of talent pool now with NIL and transfer portal. But to say that the North is going to dominate, I don't think that the facts actually support that, even though they got a couple of North teams in the championship game this year.
We appreciate the call, Troy. Appreciate you listening in Salt Lake City, too, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got it. Take care.
All right, Troy calling in from Salt Lake City. Rick is on a cell, wants to chime in on this topic. Welcome in, Rick.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing today?
Great, thank you.
Good morning.
Hey, Greg, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. I heard Herb Street and Fowler's calling the championship game, but are you and Sean doing it on ESPN radio?
Yes, sir.
Y'all are. So y'all will be on ESPN radio calling the game because I love listening to y'all.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, you can hear us on ESPN radio. You can hear us on Jocks, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so y'all are going to be on Jocks tonight, the championship game. Good. Well, what I'll do is turn Jocks on the radio and then mute my TV. That'll work. Okay.
I might just go all the way through the show. I might have Cole hop on right after, and we just do Mac and Cube right there for 10, 12 straight hours. What do you think, Cole?
I just want to know, does Molly get any credit when you watch that crew, or is it just Greg and Sean?
Yeah.
Katie, too. Katie last week.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Love it.
And what else I was going to ask you? When the playoff expands, do y'all see it going to 14 or 16?
16.
Yeah, that's everything I've heard. So I would say 16.
Greg, I had a thought. I'll make it quick. Think you think about this format. Okay, the top 4 seeds have a bye week, play in the bowls, just like we did this year. The weekend that we had on the first round this past year, the weekend before Christmas, have 5 through 8 on that day, but they play a home playoff game on their campus. But then the weekend of what's usually the conference championship games, the first Saturday of December, have 9 through 16 played. 9 play 16, 10 play 15. Then the 4 winners play 5 through 8 at their home stadium. And then with a bye week in the middle for the, I'd say this year, then the December 14th for the Heisman Trophy and the Army-Navy game. Does that make sense?
It does. It'd be a double bye. The way you structure it there is a double bye, basically, for the top 4 seeds. Those that would win championships in a power conference. That I can understand. I think that's logistically a little too challenging. And before Christmas, I think you'll have 8 games let's be real, we've now proven that weekday games can be successful viewing audiences. So that can be done. And what I would hope that they would start to explore is figuring out a way to make it advantageous. I think buys work against you. That's been proven. Buys are a challenging hurdle to overcome. But Cole, one thing that we've described is that the home field is amazing. Give the top 2 overall seeds home games in the first 2 rounds, and then basically have the New Year's 6 bowl games, 2 in the first round, 2 in the second round, 2 in the third round. That I think would be the best way of creating an advantage for the teams that won one of the 2 big conferences, the Big Ten or the SEC.
I think the home field advantage portion of that is absolutely accurate and something that should be taken into consideration. Bob in Pike Road wants to talk college football power shift. Welcome in, Bob.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
It rings very hollow to say that the Big Ten is taking over college football, or the North has taken over college football when they've been so dilapidated for 20 years. And it kind of reminds me, I don't know how much y'all are up on Civil War stuff, but, you know, after the South had lost at Gettysburg, that they had a big victory down right before they lost Atlanta at Chickamauga, you know, and so for the South, but yes, they were losing the war. And, you know, that kind of rings true to me. And I know I'm a biased. You can't go through and lose as much as the Big Ten. I mean, just get boat raced years in games that matter, and that's championship games. Year and you've taken over football. So I think that was a statement made for clickbait. Nobody that's a totality thinks that the North has taken over football based on 1 year. But hey, that's my assessment. Love to know what y'all think about it. Thanks.
No, I appreciate the time. I think it's also an accurate statement. I think I would agree with where your head's going, and also kind of like what Greg said. It's not. I wouldn't look at any of it as being completely different, but we have seen that the NIL era can make different teams better quickly, but that's also beginning to look like that's more difficult to retain that success on an annual basis. So I don't think just becoming a lot better 1 year means that's going to replicate itself the next 2 years. So either way. All right, we'll continue the conversation. You can still be a part of it. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. If you're looking for a new home, that is not the number that you need to call. You need to call 205-542-1996. That's Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group. You can just Google it. You'll see over 835-star Google reviews. Serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. So Gusty Goulas, brokered by eXp Realty, knows what homes are coming available. He knows the buyers that are out there, and he's going to know what your home is worth, and he's going to get top dollar for it. He's done it for members of my family, going to do it for you as well. Call 205-542-1996 or visit GustyGoulasGroup.com and start packing today. More on college football's power shift. When we come back here in just a moment, we'll continue talking about where we're headed with this. And I'll read the rest of what Connor Stallions had to say, G-Mac, and he tweeted out, if you missed it earlier in the show, I'd get used to Northern teams running college football now that NIL is above table. The last two national championship games, Michigan, Washington, Ohio State, Notre Dame, with Oregon and Penn State knocking at the door. Big Ten finished 5-1 versus the SEC this postseason. But he then added, I will add this thought. Yes, there are, quote, Southern schools, however you want to define that, with big-time alumni. USC, I think he's talking about Southern Cal. I'm not sure which one he's discussing. Texas, A&M, Miami, etc. I'm not saying Southern schools are going away in college football. And yes, there are plenty of variables for success in college football. However, the majority of schools with the wealthiest alumni reside in the North. If anything, at the very least, the Big Ten and Notre Dame, who should be in the Big Ten, will go back and forth with the SEC every year, same way NFC and AFC do, which is a whole other topic. I think college football is headed that way eventually. Big Ten and SEC expanding, having their own playoffs where the champions play each other for the Natty, just like AFC, NFC, and the Super Bowl. That's all what everyone has been talking about that's been happening. So he does sort of preface some of his initial "the North is taking over" comment with, well, it's really just going to be the North versus the South, which I kind of think that we all thought it was going to be that anyway, regardless. So kind of odd to see the add-on there to get used to Northern teams running college football initially out of the gate.
I think my thing is, I don't know why anyone thinks that, quote, teams are going to, quote, run college football. Like, if there's one thing we've learned, and like I said, we are early in the process of evaluating how this is all going to go. One, if you can jump to conclusions now, great. Let me know so I can go place some bets for the future. Because I've talked to people that actually have a hand in where this could go, and nobody really knows exactly at this point what's going to be prioritized and who's going to go where and who's going to do what. So nobody really knows just yet how it's all going to shake itself out. But to suggest that teams are going to, quote, run the sport is lunacy. No one's willing to go that far. Now, it creates a more competitive balance for sure moving forward. It will be more competitive moving forward because schools, let's be real, they get all jacked up when they see their rival win. Why do you think Ohio State has a $20 million roster this year?
Because they want to win?
Because Michigan won.
So definitely a reason that took place. We'll continue this conversation with more of your call next. All right, hour number 3 underway. Bruce Feldman is going to join on Carson Beck to Miami. That became official over the weekend in that NIL deal, which some people are saying over $3 million. We will see exactly what that looked like and exactly what Bruce believes that it is. Some other college football news and notes from over the weekend. Notre Dame gets commitments from Southern California defensive tackle Elijah Hughes, Louisville defensive tackle Jared Dawson, North Carolina kicker Noah Burnett, and Virginia Tech safety Jalen Strohan. Texas is going to lose Kelvin Banks, Hayden Connor from their offensive line, and Jaden Blue from the backfield. They're all going to the NFL. Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord's going to the NFL. Penn State edge Abdul Carter is going to the NFL. And the Chicago Bears apparently want to interview Marcus Freeman, Greg.
I don't blame him. I want to interview him too.
Yeah. I think a lot of teams do.
Yeah.
Not sure if there are many teams that could legitimately have an opportunity even getting his attention to try and pull them away from where he is at Notre Dame. Because of course it's he's got things heading in the right direction. Ohio State and Notre Dame will face off in the national championship game a week from tonight. Ohio State about a 9.5-point favorite in that game. Ohio State takes out Texas 28-14 in the Cotton Bowl. Howard goes 24-33, 289, a touchdown and an interception. Ohio State had 5 players with multiple receptions. It did feel like they had to spread it out just a little bit more. It wasn't just the Jeremiah Smith show. Thought there were a couple of balls that he could have caught and that those Ohio State receivers could have caught that they didn't reel in. Quinn Ewers 23-39, but the turnovers got him. 283 yards, a touchdown, an interception. Texas only had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Ohio State, 9 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. There was not a field goal attempted in this game. Third downs also were not great for either team in that game. It was a little bit of a slower, just overall pace game, I would say, than I thought it might be, Greg. 370 yards for Ohio State, 341 for Texas. The defenses kind of showed up, maybe a little bit more so than I anticipated that they would in this one.
Big time. And the defenses, I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game. That's where I just anticipated from the beginning. I just thought Texas, the way they would structure their defense, they wouldn't allow the big plays. That ended up coming to fruition. The one thing I didn't anticipate it being sloppy. I thought there were more drops than I anticipated. Thought there were more missed opportunities. I thought there'd be more pressure on both quarterbacks than I anticipated. There were Quinn Ewers, but as far as just individually getting worked up front, it didn't happen as much as I thought it had a chance to. So how would you assess both offensive lines?
Ohio State, I would say, better in protection than I expected. Run game, kind of a push. Texas, I would say more or less, I would have to go more of a disappointment for the Texas group. And a lot of that, I'm not trying to just put an individual down, but a lot of that was on the right tackle. The right tackle spot struggled big time. I mean, you get that final play of the Texas offensive game, and there's a lot of people that are, Jack Sawyer off the ball, this, that. Well, when you watch Cam Williams, he sets initially down inside for a linebacker that's walked up in the B gap, and he takes that initial first stab set inside towards his guard. Well, if your eyes are inside, number one, you're probably not blocking Jack Sawyer on a speed rush anyway, no matter what. I mean, you're going to have to get initial depth in a hurry to be able to cut off his speed to the quarterback. Well, then on top of that, he takes the little jab step down inside and his eyes are there. Then he tries to bounce back and recover to block Jack Sawyer, who gives him a nice little hand swat on a speed rush. And he's got almost a direct line to Quinn Ewers. Now he gets the ball out, recovers the fumble, and takes it in for a touchdown. So it's a hell of a play on his part, but there were multiple instances. You and I were talking about another one during the break where it's a 3-down look with the linebacker walked up outside the defensive end, outside the tackle, and a corner lined up in press man. They all come. They slide the protection that way, which is what you should do. Number one, I don't know about you, but I'm probably thinking ball needs to be out. If you're this is the thing that gets me about this slide protection, Greg. Like I can talk about how it makes you not be a football player and it ruins your football brain, but these quarterbacks that refuse to not get the ball out when they're changing the protection to it. That's what I just don't understand. Like you slide it because you think you're essentially, like we're talking ground rules, like we're talking,
just your get out of jail free card.
Yeah. Floor level concepts here. Like that means sums up that you're not real sure about. To me, that means ball better get out. We don't have time to just survey the field anymore. That was one thing that happened on that play, and it happens all over the place. These quarterbacks think, I slide the protect good, and they can just get in their drop and start going through their progressions. It's like, no, man, that ball needs to be out now.
Yes. Confirm. Same spot. Like if you change the protection because you have problems, you better, even if you a guy blitzing from be in a tough spot. So to have an where problems like drives me nuts. I have a story now. I gotta be thinking enemy territory, base pressure. Oh, 12-yard line. Give up an easy touchdown. They're not going to blitz me. They give up a touchdown at this point. Like, the lack of a plan, it really does. It drives me insane. And we see it all the time.
Yeah.
And it was on display, playoff schedule. But have a plan every snap.
Yeah, it's something that the ad-libbing portion of that can be great and can be dangerous. But when you have an idea that things are going to break down quickly, that's when you can't just ad-lib from the get-go. It's got to be a plan to make something happen. I did think that the Texas backs were great in the passing game. You know, Wisner ran 17 times for 46 yards. He caught 6 balls for 42. And Jaden Blue ran 4 for 16, but caught 5 for 59. He was the leading receiver for the team. Also, like, total sidebar here. I'm not trying to go completely Brian Kelly on this. And maybe Damien's a better person to answer this. Why were the Texas receivers jumping for every pass?
I have no idea.
The amount of yards they left on the field jumping for balls.
I couldn't tell you.
And the one where Texas ended up not getting it before the strip sack, I think it was like a corner route
over the middle.
Kind of, yeah, but it was kind of a corner route. It was like on the hash, and I don't know if it wasn't Wingo. I'm trying to think exactly who it was. It may be, I think it was Golden. First off, he jumps like 2 seconds early. And second off, he didn't have to jump. The ball would have hit him in the face mask. And he dropped it.
I can't remember which one. There was Golden did one, Bond had one, where it was thrown behind. Terrible throw. It was and catch it like. No, I can live with easy catch. Made it look much and secured the catch. I think concerned with creating yards after catch that like you're thinking ahead of where you should be thinking of. You know what I'm saying? And I think that happened a couple times in this game.
Yeah, I don't what's going like do coaches coach this?
No.
Because I know Brian Kelly did. We talked to him because John Boy put it out there and everybody saw it, what he was talking about with his guy. And it happened in the game before ours, which that was a couple games before. And it happened again. And we asked BK about it. And he was like, I said, you wouldn't have gone all ballistic like that if you had not told him this before. And he said, we have been coaching this with him since the spring. It is a constant issue. And he's like, listen, we give him some grace. He's a track guy. Like, he hasn't been catching footballs his whole life, but he's just said, like, we have hammered this to him and he can't stop doing it. So I didn't know if that's like part of the normal coaching routine with receivers, but I mean, it was a problem.
I just think hand-eye. Like, at some point, you just got to trust. Because the one that Isaiah Bond had, it was, okay, what was it, about like a 14 yards? And, I mean, like I said, it wasn't like a great ball, but there was no reason he had to jump. Like, if he kind of just adjusts his body, twists his hands, like, he's got it. It's the jumping, and he didn't. It's almost like you're caught in no man's land of, oh, do I need to turn my thumbs out? Do I turn my thumbs in? And you're just kind of like in no man's land. He hits his hand and he drops it because he's thinking.
Is it just trying to look cool? Honestly,
I couldn't tell you.
No,
Greg, go to play 62. He actually catches that one, but it's just like he has a chance to make that catch and potentially make a guy miss. I don't understand it, man. Like that, I felt like that cost them. There was one drop, and then there was at least, I don't know. I'm not going to even try to guess how many yards they left on the field, but those were potential big plays. And what are Texas receivers known best for? Catch and run. Like make plays after the catch. And they kept jumping for balls. I didn't know if I was the only one that noticed that because it was infuriating to me watching it.
There's a handful. I mean, that is part of the problem. And I think some of it has there's a lot to
they start thinking. It's like, oh man, the DB, did I get enough separation from him? Is he going to be on me? Do I have to adjust my body? And you start to think. And I think when receivers, we start doing that, it's no man's land.
We know what you're saying. Yeah, when receivers have to think, we get it. We understand. Yeah, but honestly, I do like there's a lot of Quinn Ewers throws. Like he'd be like a little bit of Greg Maddox. Like he's got a great changeup, sort of. It's like but it's not there in time. So it makes sense. I think when you look at it from that way, and so maybe I shouldn't be as mad at the Texas receivers in this game.
No, if it's our hands,
like let's not lose sight of the fact that every ball that hits their hand should be caught. He's not throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs a step or two behind him. Like he's throwing catchable balls a step or two behind him every once in a while. So you catch the ball. I mean, long story short, catch the ball.
I'm with you. All right. So we'll get Ohio State and Notre Dame, and Greg and I will break it down throughout the course of the week, our thoughts on it. I did want to come back to our conversation around Connor Stallions. There are a lot of you tweeting in at Mac and Cube. We'll get to those. You can text in 205-834-9450. Is there some truth in the North sort of taking over college football? Or do you disagree? Tell us why. You can hit us up, 800-239-9569. Get in on the Buyers Right hotline. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's is a great place where we've gone for years and years and years. You can purchase the natural diamond. It's a luxury like no other. That natural diamond is not only a gift to the wearer, but also to the people and the economies of countries where the gift of a natural diamond began its journey 3 billion years ago. Its original home, far before it was put on your finger. Know that your natural diamond helps support the livelihood of 10 million people worldwide, and that it saves millions of animals from extinction and also protects 3 times the amount of land it uses for diamond recovery. To discover the latest natural diamond jewelry, go and visit Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, we'll come back, talk more about the North versus the South in college football. Next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic morning. It is 9:19, Monday, January 3rd, right here on Jocks 94.5. Going to get to Bruce Feldman of The Athletic and Fox Sports here in just a moment, talk Carson Beck. Lot to get to with him, lot to talk about. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners how Polar Bear Services can help them around their homes.
Well, it's been cold the last few weeks. We know that. Polar Bear Services will get you taken care of. Make sure that your HVAC system is up and running and in a good position to make sure there are no issues around your home the rest of the winter months. You also need to ask them about some of the other things they can provide around your house. It's honestly tremendous, some of the stuff that they can give you. I love using Polar Bear Services for all the different reasons because I know I can call them. They can handle my electrical. They recently added plumbing. They can do small appliance repair. But it's the HVAC system that I have them come out and take a look at more than anything else because they're the very best when it comes to having my system running smoothly, especially as things get as cold as it's gotten in the last week. Remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, let's go to Bruce Feldman of Fox Sports and The Athletic joining us on the Buyers Right hotline. Bruce, an article working on with Manny Navarro on Carson Beck and his NIL deal. Follow Bruce on Twitter at Bruce Feldman CFB. How close are some of these rumors, Bruce? $3 million floating around. A lot of people saying that, which I believe would be more than double. Apparently what he got at Georgia last year. How accurate are some of the numbers that are being tossed around with this Carson?
Manny, he's on that beat. Some of his sources high up at UM had told him those numbers. And, you know, I think the tricky part, guys, with this is people see one number from maybe a school collective, and that doesn't mean maybe what the player may be getting. You know, you remember a few years back, you know, Bryce Young was making quite a bit of money, but it may have been coming from national deals that he had done. You know, Dr. Pepper and you know, when Caleb Williams was out here at USC, he had a big deal with like, I think American Airlines or United, and a few other big deals. And so I think when people see the number, they think, wait, it's only that, or it's that much. I think it depends on where what stream it's coming from, you know. And I remember hearing back, you know, when Coach Saban was at Alabama, there were some deals that were done for high-end players, but it was almost like the player was like, no, like, make sure my teammates get taken care of, because he was going to get taken care of by bigger national deals. And so I think in the case of some other deals as well, and I think that's how it kind of grew from that. But that's the number you know, Manny and I had heard on the UM side of it. It's still obviously a significant, you know, amount of money for a college player now. But at the same time, I think you got to keep in mind too, I think if you're Carson Beck, there's a couple of big factors here. You know, he saw how Cam Ward was able to elevate his draft stock, and on the other side of it, also his girlfriend lives in Miami too, and there's another appeal for him to be down there as well.
It does stand to reason that there was some buzz about maybe how the teammates felt about Carson Beck and how he handled NIL, and there was some buzz about the Lamborghinis, and maybe people weren't real fond of that and how that all went down. Is there any concern about that as he now heads to Miami?
I'd ask Miami people that very question, you know, because I had heard some of that as well. And especially knowing how they felt about Cam Ward, not just felt, but also like a leadership about this big alpha personality, which was very different with Tyler Van Dyke, you know, before. In the case of, you know, this dynamic, Miami's offensive coordinator had a lot of conversations with Todd Monk, feeling very good about what he heard is. But again, that's the wild card in all of this, especially when, as if players have he's making, you know, double what he might be making, or certainly triple. that can, depending on what the culture can create problems. And I think there was Georgia last year on, definitely worth noting, stable than it was. So I think it was just primed to have a lot of success. I think a lot of those things were not defensive. I saw a guy who looked like he was really pressing, and certainly, but there's other times where you wonder what was going on.
Bruce Feldman joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Find his work at The Athletic. Article up now on Carson Beck headed to Miami and just what that might mean. I've had conversations with coaches as it pertains to some of these bigger NIL deals and their fear in doing that of what it might mean for the rest of the roster. And I don't really reference the jealousy part or anything like that right now, Bruce, but just who else is going to be able to get paid to help said position. Will this affect any of the rest of the Miami roster, in your opinion, as far as the talent that maybe they could have brought in and now might not be able to?
I think they're thinking it's actually going to be the opposite, where if you're a guy if you're an OC or a head coach and you don't feel like you have a guy, that is a hard selling point, because every receiver that you're trying to get is going to go, who's the quarterback going to be? And Miami liked Emory Williams. He was the backup. Remember, in 2023, he beat Clemson. And when Clemson had a better defense, and he almost beat Florida State when they were, a 13-1 team. So they liked, but what they feel like they had in him. But he really struggled in the half he played in the bowl game against Iowa State. And I think that them feeling like, okay, we have a whale here in Carson Beck, who's played in a ton of big games and has, going into this year, a lot of people thought would be the top NFL prospect at quarterback. So I think they feel like that will attract a lot of talent to want to come play there. But it is it is a prickly situation, no doubt about it.
What do you make of what Miami could potentially be next year? I think Mario's kind of flipped the script on the narrative surrounding his ability to, quote, screw things up. I mean, a lot of people thought that was the case. I never felt like that was a fair representation of what he had accomplished. I think he's a good, solid coach, and for whatever reason. But do you think now, with the addition of Carson Beck and with how they've taken a big step this past year, are you under the impression that this is a program that's here to stay and will likely only get better from this point forward?
That case, because he look at the talent he brought to Oregon, and then he's built a really good offensive line. That is, before he got there, the offensive line was much improved. There was some freshman at right tackle, and it's gotten better. They think it's going to be even better in 2025. I know they're running back at receiver. Last year, as you guys know, was the defense just couldn't tackle, and they had a lot of issues in the secondary. About that, it's in the it's on the back end. They got to get it better. Chris job at Minnesota to take over the defense. Who was the defensive coordinator? We obviously remember them losing a 21-point lead against Syracuse, but then there's other games where it was like the Cal game. Basically Cam Ward saved them. They had a lot of close calls because their defense was so spotty. That has to get better. When Miami was great, and I'm talking about 20 plus years ago, It was because Miami had a nasty defense with a lot of talent. It wasn't just guys on the back end. They haven't had that in a long time. And so I think Mario's got to get that. He's at least upgraded now the front end statement, because they hadn't been, remember, they only had 1 years before this year. That's not, it's not like they're in a conference that's stacked. So I think a big step here now. I think them getting I do going forward, I think shows that they probably have the financial big fish, and he's going to do that.
Bruce, I wanted to sort of spin forward a little bit with you in reference to the national championship game. We've been discussing a tweet from Connor Stallions that says he feels like, get used to the North in the college football playoff being dominant, more schools that have bigger alumni bases, therefore more money for NIL. Do you think that this particular season, this college football playoff, Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, is this a sign of the times of what's on the way next for the next few years or even longer in college football?
I would pump the brakes on the dominant part of that. Like, I think what you had were some you had some obviously big coaching turnover in the SEC that's happened, certainly with Nick Saban, but even some other pieces of that around the league. And then I think where we're looking at here with Ohio State has had a ton of talent for a long time. What I feel like happened is, yes, the portal has been a big deal, but I think what it's done is kind of like weakened some of the top level teams. I mean, Georgia had an insane amount of talent, when they were winning back-to-back national titles, especially on in the trenches and in the front seven. And I feel like they still have, Michael Williams, when he was healthy, was elite. They had other guys who were really, really good. I just don't think they had as many of them. You look at what you saw from Alabama. Is Alabama, how different are they if Caleb Downs, is still there? I think you add a few other pieces here or there, and I think that just makes a difference. Whereas you have this Ohio State team that has a ton of 3-year starters, and then you add to them, Jeremiah Smith, the best freshman in the country. You add to them Quinshon Judkins, and then you have 2 running backs. You add to them, I know he's been hurt, but like their starting center and their starting left tackle were both portal guys, Josh Simmons and Seth McLaughlin. And then, you added obviously Downs to them. So I think those are like key pieces. We'll see. I think Ohio State, Jim Harbaugh is not the head more, I think is an impressive young coach, but I think that I wouldn't read too much into the pendulum's going to completely swing the other way. I just think we will have now a little more parity than certainly what we had over the previous 15 years.
Bruce, we always appreciate the time. Before we let you run, what are your thoughts on Monday's national championship game? A week from tonight, we'll get Notre Dame, Ohio State.
I think Ohio State's ultimately too talented. Notre Dame offensive line and them being able to get much going. I think, you have a terrific running quarterback in Riley Leonard. And I think, I feel like Ohio State will have some of the answers, whereas Penn State kind of got sucked in. Like Ohio State is better than them on the back end. And I feel like that'll be a difference. And I just think that unlike Penn State, Ohio State has really good receivers. And I think that'll ultimately be the difference. But I think it's been amazing what Marcus Freeman and that team has done this year.
Absolutely. Great stuff, Bruce. Appreciate the time. It's always great catching up with you. Thank you so much. We'll do it again soon.
Always a pleasure, guys. Hopefully I'll see you this weekend in Atlanta.
There you go. Bruce Feldman will be at the national championship game a week from tonight, as will Greg McElroy. He'll be doing the call for ESPN Radio. Sean McDonough, Molly McGrath. Who is second sideline? Is it Katie again for you guys?
Ian Fitzsimmons.
Ian
and Katie
Fitzsimmons.
George. Molly McGrath will be on the TV.
That's correct. Yes. Excuse me for that one. There. So she's moving up a little bit.
So Fitz Dog and Katie George.
Fitz, get that voice intact. He was a little hoarse during the Cotton Bowl there. Heard him on the call for ESPN Radio doing that one. Got to get that thing going. Carson Beck in this offense with what Shannon Dawson runs. I want to get your thoughts on that. how they were able to sell him on this, and we'll continue your feedback on the North potentially taking over college football. There are a few of you that have certain thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on Shannara Flooring, Greg, and what they can do for some of our listeners?
Well, I know that if I have a problem, I'm calling Fu directly. It's the only owner of a company that's this successful that I know I have direct access to when it comes to flooring and things like that, man. It's great. Replacing your hardwoods, replacing your floors. We know that's a costly decision. That's a timely decision. It's one that's massive. It adds tremendous value to your home in some cases, but you know that finding a flooring company that you can trust is always very, very difficult. So at Shannara Flooring, they understand those problems and they put your mind at ease so you don't have to worry. That's why Fu, the owner, built his team on a foundation of trust and integrity. Whether you're replacing old carpet or upgrading to hardwood, you can rely on Fu and his team. And you need to ask yourself, when it's time for new flooring, ask yourself, call who? Call Fu. Call him direct at 205-518-6423. And check out all the new styles for 2025 at shannaraflooring.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll continue that conversation around college football. Is the dominance headed to the North? And also discuss some of that Carson Beck move to Miami, what that means, right after this on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. I want to start with actually background with the air raid principles inside this offense. We know that's where he can be really good, is pushing the football down the field. Might be a really interesting fit, and potentially what they get on the outside could lead to some big success. But listen, new year, huge discounts on cars, trucks, and SUVs. The Volvo XC60, XC90, you can go check those out right now at Royal Buick GMC. It's the Yukon Denali, Sierra, different levels like AT4, they're going to